All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's time to talk about those buzzwords again. It's time to talk about misogyny and racism in gaming, because that's what they all want to talk about. That's what these games journalists want to talk about. That's what these regular journalists want to talk about. Nobody actually seems to want to talk about the video games, which is odd, because I don't know why these developers are constantly reaching out to these games journalists when they will just co-opt their reviews and turn them into activism. We saw that happen with Alyssa Mercante with her most recent Elden Ring DLC review, if you even want to call it that. It was really more like a personal piece about misogyny and homophobia. But we have another prime example. So we have an article here from The Guardian written by someone called Keza McDonald. Now, we've talked about Keza before. This is one of those they-them kind of creatures that want to come out and pretend as if they're a boy. Well, apparently they wrote a headline here saying the disturbing online misogyny of Gamergate has returned if it ever went away.
What's that? Sorry, I was taking a selfie while shooting a Snapchat, while periscoping that Snapchat, while Instagramming latte art, while Shazamming The Weeknd, while streaming Master of None, while retweeting George Takei, while saying, "This wins the internet."
Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that they want to talk about this more than anything else, because at the end of the day, they're not actually gamers. As much as they want to sit there and pretend that they are, I see more people that are supposedly hating on the norm, right? Hating on the mainstream narrative. I see more of those kind of people playing games every single day, talking about them, posting about it on Twitter, posting about it on Instagram. I see those supposed haters talking about games more than I see games journalists talking about games. And that is just a very telling thing. So let's get into this article, guys, from The Guardian. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. And again, obviously I don't want to support them, so I used it as an archive. I suggest you do the same exact thing. It says, while some of their language has changed, the sentiment of this latest aggressive movement is just as distressing. It's time for the games industry to stand up to it. Now, I've talked about this many times on Hypnocast, and I'm going to talk about it in this video, just like I'm going to talk about it in many videos. So for those of you lurking on my channel saying you don't watch, well, here you go watching again. I'm going to put it to you quite simply. It's amazing to me that these strong, independent women that need no men, right? The women who claim that men are useless, men are racist, men are misogynist, men are whatever, the same people who are constantly screaming that language are the same people who are constantly begging them to stand up for them. It's amazing that someone like this is asking the games industry, which is predominantly male, and don't give me that bullshit that it's not, you still want to make that same male-dominated industry stand up for you. Why do you need them to stand up for you? I don't understand. I thought you were a strong, independent woman that needs no man, but apparently you need them when you need them to fight your causes. Well, at the end of the day, it's your cause. You go fight it on your own. It says that a few months ago, I wrote about a consultancy agency, which also, by the way, Keza was the one that kind of piggybacked on Alyssa Mercante's article about Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what you think it does. Yeah, Keza was the one who did the same exact thing, essentially, literally almost at the exact same time. It was honestly kind of ridiculous, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. Sweet Baby Inc. that found itself at the center of a conspiracy theory. No. Not the center of a conspiracy theory, the center of backlash due to what someone said at Sweet Baby Inc. You know, unfortunately for Keza, she's one of those, I guess, I don't know, journalists, if you want to call them that. She's one of them that chose to omit the information that a lot of people would have found very interesting about Sweet Baby Inc. during the whole Gamergate 2.0 debacle that's still going on. Like, you guys chose to omit that information, and then you get mad when people call you out on it and choose to give you backlash over it, and then you want to claim misogyny. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to leave out the fact that Chris Kindred was the one that started the entire thing. You don't get to leave that information out and then supposedly, I guess, think that nothing's going to happen. Aggrieved Gamers on Steam forum had erroneously concluded that this small agency was somehow mandating the inclusion of more diverse characters in games. Well, that's exactly what they do. I mean, they are a DEI consultancy firm. Either they do nothing or they do something, right? And the funny thing is, you'll say, oh, well, they do narrative consulting. consultancy. Yeah, they do narrative consultancy to try to push DEI mandates. That's what they do. Every single game that they've ever worked on somehow goes from a non-DEI focused character to a super DEI focused character, and then they end up being so stereotypically DEI that it's actually insulting to the person that they try to virtue signal to in the first place. Look what's happening with Assassin's Creed Shadows. You got hip-hop music playing in feudal Japan because some DEI consultancy probably told Ubisoft that's the best thing to do for representation. Depressingly, but unsurprisingly, the result was a tremendous amount of targeted harassment towards people who work at Sweet Baby and every journalist who reported on it, particularly the women. Yeah, you gotta just throw in that little victimhood. Just throw it in there. It's amazing how you guys figure out what a woman is when it comes to talking about harassment or when it comes to talking about being a victim. Suddenly you remember what being a woman is, but when you want to be asked this question by people outside of these particular conversation points, all of a sudden you get amnesia and you don't remember what a woman is. It was a disturbing echo of Gamergate, an online harassment campaign 10 years ago that initially sprung from the wild accusations of game developers' vindictive ex-boyfriend. Wild accusations that actually ended up being proven true, mind you. So there you go. I mean, it's just another conspiracy theory. At the end of the day, man, you know what conspiracy theory really means for these people? Conspiracy theory means, hey, it's a conspiracy theory until you're proven right in about 6 months. That's basically what it is. The language has changed a bit in the past decade. They used to be upset about SJWs or social justice warriors, and now they take an issue with a different acronym, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or just good old woke. But the sentiment from this group is the same. Games are for us and for us only. And if you want games to change or to tell stories outside the straightforward male-oriented power fantasies that we grew up with, then, well, that's not allowed. We won't stand for it. In fact, we would try to aggressively harass you out of this space entirely. Okay, so let's translate this into the truth, okay? The entire sentiment is, no, we actually want characters that are focused on the character first and not what diversity they bring. We want characters that, hey, instead of giving me a token black guy or a token Asian, or in my case, a token Latino, perhaps you should focus on making a very interesting character that has a great backstory that just so happens to be diverse. But unfortunately, you white leftists are incapable of doing so. You're so desperate to want to prove that you're not racist that you'll virtue signal to the maximum, and you'll throw every single stereotypical thing about whatever race you're trying to virtue signal to, and then you'll sit there and be like, well, I did God's work. I'm so stunning and brave. Look at what I did. People should embrace me for what I did. I'm creating diversity where there wasn't. Guess what? There was always diversity. The thing is, nobody talked about it. Nobody made it a focal point of conversation. Nobody had to run around and say, hey, look at me. I have XYZ skin color. Praise me for being different. Nope, nobody fucking did that. That was the most cringe thing to do, and nobody ever brought it up. Only until you white leftists decided to want to bring this into the equation that now it's become the focal point of conversation, and people are sick of it. Nobody wants to keep hearing about how Black Lives Matter. Nobody want to keep hearing about Stop Asian Hate, because at the end of the day, you guys are the arbiters of all this shit that's going down. All we want to do is play video games, and you want to promote your games with the diversity that you put in the game. That is annoying, that is boring, and that is also why it's not too surprising that you people want to make your sexuality your entire identity to begin with in the first place too. And then on top of that, they want to say straightforward male-oriented power fantasies. There are so many video games out there in the past that have been led by women that have been amazing video games. The fact that you don't know this proves that you're either a tourist or you're too young to understand what the actual history of gaming was, which is fine. I totally get it. Not everybody is old or older or whatever the case would be. I totally understand that. But don't try to pretend like you have this grand world view of gaming when you're 20-something years old, fresh out of college, pretending like black people and women didn't exist in gaming prior to you doing it. That's the problem. You want to pretend as if you're the first one to do it when you're like the 100th one to do it. You are so far behind that you don't even realize it. And then they try to pretend as if we don't want these kind of stories, which is hilarious because that's not the case. Look at Zelda, for example. Zelda's finally getting one of her own games, and people are excited for it. I'm excited for it. It's fantastic. People have been asking for a Zelda game for the longest. It's been Legend of Zelda for a while. There's even a meme going around that it should be called Legend of Link now, because Zelda's the one that you're able to play as, and people are excited, and the game looks good. You guys are fucking retards. You really are. You don't understand exactly what you're talking about. You don't understand the argument, or I should say you do understand the argument, and you're purposefully mistranslating it or misconstruing it so that as many normies as possible believe you and don't believe the other people. Unfortunately, the anti-woke campaigning has not let up much in the intervening months. It's not going to. Led by a coterie of the usual grifters. Do you understand what the word grifter even is? Do you get what that word is? Just like how you guys like to complain how we don't understand what the word woke is, which we do. We just know that the definition of woke has changed over time, and what people are doing now that they would consider woke is not what actual woke is. But that's besides the point. Do you understand what grifters are? Like you guys are saying that people talking about their opinions of gaming and how they feel about said gaming, they're automatically grifters, and that's not how this works. There are people out there like myself who are hardcore gamers for a very long time with a track record to prove it, and you're complaining that we are not happy with the current state of the gaming industry right now, and that automatically makes us grifters, which by definition of the word is scammers. That's what it is. You're a con artist. You're a grifter. You're a scammer. You're a con artist. That's not what we are. You just don't like the fact that the conversation is not necessarily going in your favor, and they can't understand it. They don't like it. They want to be able to control the narrative, and it's something they were able to do for so many years prior. They had complete control over it, but now with the purchase of Twitter, they don't have that anymore. Now they have to go in their Discord channels and do little collaborations of what they're going to do and try to figure out how they're going to throw out hit pieces against certain people at the same time. Whereas before, Twitter was allowing them to be able to say whatever the fuck they want, and it was policed in their favor heavily. Like 99% to 1, it was policed for a leftist favor. You almost never even saw opposing viewpoints because it would get banned before it even had a chance to be seen, or it would get shadow banned or whatever. So you want to pretend as if now all of a sudden the harassment is back, when in all actuality it's not even harassment that's back. Free speech is back. The ability to see a public discourse is back. You can now see the opposing view. You can now see, hey, there's actually people that think differently from me. I know, super shocking, but that is what's happening. So now you want to pretend like it's harassment, but no, the fact of the matter is the world is 50-50. The world is not black and white. There is a lot of gray, and that gray is now being able to be heard and seen, and you just don't like it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.